Good morning. It is Monday, May 22nd. I'm Carrie Freeman, and you have reached My Left Ear. My Left Ear is a left-leaning political and psychic commentary site, and I add other goodies. And I also do some predictions, reading energy with the runes. So here we go. This is video 158 if I didn't say that. When I'm not here, I'm a change agent, which means on an individual basis, I help people change. I help people solve problems and issues. And I do that through therapeutic hypnosis and psychic coaching. And sometimes I combine the two. Very effective. And you can reach me at the email below, and there's even a phone number, okay? I'm also an author, and sometimes I talk about my books, and I've sold a bunch of books here at this site. So this today is for entertainment purposes only, and I'm going to discuss first the runes for last week were exceptionally positive, if you remember, and there was a cascade after I did the runes last Monday of like good evidence. And so I wanted to review this a little bit. But I'm also got the runes for this week. So let me just see what I've got here. Yeah, so I've got a lot to say about what happened last week, but I want to do the runes first for this week, the week of May 22nd. And entertainment purposes only. All right, I always like to say that. So I just said, what's the energy for the runes for May 22nd? And it's really like opposite from last week's reading, but it doesn't necessarily mean negative, but it is very cautionary. So the first rune I pulled was the rune of constraint in the reversed position. And all three runes today are in the reversed position. Now, these were so reversed that I pulled a fourth rune as a clarifier. And that fourth rune has no reversed position, and I'll get to that in a minute. So the first we got for this week is constraint, reversed, and it says, there's a counsel against expecting too much or expecting in the ordinary way. Maybe some surprises. The old way has come to an end. Cannot repeat the old without suffering. There is exhaustion from meeting obstruction after obstruction. That's very understandable, the exhaustion. We don't see that on President Biden. He doesn't present ever with exhaustion, but this is debilitating because so much is at stake. So it says, constraint reverse says, you may choose to see this apparent negativity as a challenge specific to the initiation you are undergoing. All right, so that's the introduction. That's the beginning. Then we move on to the second rune, which was the self in reverse. And it says, if you feel blocked, look inside for the enemy as but a reflection of what you have not, until now, been willing to or able to recognize as coming from within. It's about breaking the momentum of past habits. So I read into this and I felt very strongly, I feel very strongly that this is a kind of a message to Kevin McCarthy. If you feel blocked, look inside for the enemy, right? Willing or able to recognize as coming from within. It's about him breaking the momentum of past habits. And he's a very fixed character, and it's not likely. The last time he showed any integrity or ethics was like a day or two after January 6th, where he got up and made a really good speech. And he's never made a good speech since then, because a few days after that, he ran to Mar-a-Lago and got got together with Donald Trump again. And the last rune here, because I feel like in a way, these runes have been directed towards McCarthy. So here's the last one, and then the clarifier. It is possessions reversed. There may be considerable frustration in your life, from the trivial to the severe. You are compelled to stand by helplessly while what you've gained dwindles away. The question is, what do I need to learn? Now that's a question that Kevin would never ask himself. He has no insight, and he's not introspective, and he's not very bright. He just wants his job. If things turn out, do not collapse into mindless joy. This is the shadow side of possessions and money. Do not collapse. If you think you've won something, do not collapse. And personally, I'm not sure you will. I'm going to go back to how I felt last week, and I still feel. And then the fourth one, because I'm like, whoa, this is really, tough stuff today. I asked for a clarifier, and the clarifier supports what I've been saying. So the clarifier is stand still. Not the best rune in the deck. So it's about withdrawal. And it says, winter of your spiritual life is upon you. You may find yourself entangled in a situation to whose implications you are blind. Surrender, even sacrifice some long cherished desire. This feels like it's McCarthy again, to a large degree. Positive accomplishment is unlikely now. Trying to hold on brings up a sense of being out of touch with life. Yeah, if you're going to allow the whole United States and global economy crash, you are out of touch with life. So stand still requires a sacrifice of the personal. Do not stubbornly persist in attempting to work your will. And somewhere in this, I don't know if it was this week or last week, but I wrote in terms of Kevin McCarthy reminds me of the famous Broadway show Chorus Line. And one of the songs says, oh God, I need this job. I really need this job. And I feel like that's McCarthy's song. All right, so this is this coming week, and I want to remind everybody, if we're talking about, like, you can't turn on the TV without hearing about the debt ceiling. It's like a little too much. I can't watch it all because it's repeated. It's repetitive. We know what's going on with the debt ceiling. However, that's just what's like this upheaval that's going on right now. And so it's accurate. And just to remind you, we don't hit June 1st until a week from Thursday, okay? So there's still a little bit of time. I just want to remind you of that. Now, I want to go over last week's runes because it's so unbelievable. Like all the things, I just started to make a list. Because the runes were really accurate. So we got last week, for the week, we got harvest, fertility, and partnership, all in the upright, really positive about growth. So I'm just going to rattle off to you all the things that occurred this past week that were and are positive news that popped. All right. First is Fani Willis, and my screen just blew up. I actually have to take my computer into the Genius bar and see if they can help me with some of these things that are going on with my computer. So we'll see what happens. Fani Willis is preparing to fully indict, probably sometime in August, which is really soon. This is known because of her communication with law enforcement in Georgia to plan on clearing the streets and clearing areas in advance of the announcement. Right now, 95% of her employees are working from home for safety. The on-site employees are wearing bulletproof gear. They're all getting ready, and it is rumored that this is a RICO case, which is normally for the mafia, but it applies to this tremendous crime syndicate that Trump pulled together. Likely names, there's going to be 12 or more that are going to be indicted. I want to say 99% Trump is part of this, the indictments. But we're looking at Meadows, Giuliani, Lindsay, and more, and some people that are not that familiar to us. Fani Willis had access to some of the fake electors who flipped and revealed information. Now we're going to move on. Rudy Giuliani, this week I'm talking about, not this week, but last week, was hit with a $10 million sexual abuse lawsuit from a former staffer. And she has recordings, emails, proof. She has evidence. It's very, very disgusting what he did with this young woman. And at first, upon reading it, it was like, well, why didn't she leave? Well, I found out there's a reason why she didn't leave. She was breaking up with a husband who was very abusive, and she had no money for an attorney. And Giuliani offered her a job in exchange for her to come in and perform some business services. And then he took advantage of her vulnerability, that she very much needed an attorney, and he abused her sexually. It's really horrible. In addition, this is really big. Rudy Giuliani told her, and she's got it on audio, that he and Trump were in cahoots to sell pardons for $2 million per pardon. So that was news. Then we move on. Jim Jordan, who's really a fool, really a fool, in his new position, was calling in whistleblowers to damn Joe Biden and push against the Democrats and really create a whole kerfuffle. But what we found out is these whistleblowers are former FBI agents who got dismissed from the FBI. Number one, they refused to enforce orders to arrest January 6th insurrectionists. They were asked to visit a class that they'd already taken, which is about cooperation in being an FBI agent. They didn't attend the class. They refused. So they lost their security, which means they lost their jobs. And they are now being paid by MAGAs. So rumors are that right now the FBI, because of these guys, is doing a deep dive into dissidents that are within the FBI, and they are there. I was going to tell you something else about this that I didn't write a note about these whistleblowers. It just crashes and burns Jim Jordan. And Jim Jordan is going to be more and more, I'm sure that the Senate and the House, the members who have been insurrectionists and coup plotters, are going to be arrested, indicted, and Jim Jordan's going to be one of them. So his days are numbered. And he comes out of this whole whistleblower thing in very looking horrible, okay? And he is, you know, he's really a dumbass. All right, so we blew up again. Carrie's gonna go to the Genius Bar because I'm pretty sick of this. It's doing other things too. Then we move on. More good news for us. Donna Deegan, a Democrat, first female to win mayoral what am I trying to say? Mayoral campaign, sorry, Carrie, in Florida's biggest city and district, Jacksonville. And Duval County, Duval, is now purple. And she won it against a longtime white male Republican who was supported by Ron DeSantis. But here's what I love. About a week ago, Ron DeSantis described the Democratic influences in Florida as roadkill. Actually, there was a paragraph that he said in this press conference that was really disgusting. And I'll try to find it, but I believe he used the word roadkill. I mean, the imagery was they're done, they're dead, they're like dead meat on the side of the road. But no, they aren't. No, they aren't, because Duval County is now purple. And a woman won the mayor as an independent. Okay, so she's really cool. Donna Deegan is really cool. She's like third family generation in Jacksonville, and she was on TV, and she's so intelligent and she's just really likable and intelligent and reasonable. If you have a chance to listen to her. She's really impressive. Now we go to Disney in Florida and the CEO, Bob Iger. Bob Iger had plans to invest $1 billion to expand Disney Florida and employ more than 2,000 new employees. Well, he pulled it. He pulled it because of Ron DeSantis and all of these draconian laws that he's cooking up that are really dangerous and horrible and I think largely illegal in terms of the Constitution. But Iger is withdrawing all of that from Florida. So this is Ron DeSantis continuing to hurt Floridians. And there's an end to this, by the way. You know, this is not going to go on forever. Now, the G Summit, the U.S. and its allies at the G Summit in Hiroshima, Japan, have agreed to train Ukrainian pilots on F-16 fighter jets. A really big deal. It's going to up the game for Ukraine. And they will be trained. Their military is extraordinary. The Ukrainian military is extraordinary. And whoever is training, they get it fast. This is not like a long training. They're really exceptional. And I saw Admiral Cerritos on TV this morning, and I love this guy. And he claims that this shift is very positive for Ukraine, all right? Now, there's another side of this that Putin just named like 50 people that are sanctioned and cannot visit Russia. And it makes it appear that Trump is clearly doing business with him because he's sanctioned all the people that are against Trump. It's also possible that Putin wants to hang into this war, hoping that he can get Trump elected and then he'll get Ukraine. That won't happen because Trump is not going to be president. All right, so we'll go beyond that. Now, the other thing, really cool, there's an attorney named Ty Cobb, and Glenn Kirshner actually says Ty Cobb is a legitimate attorney with a good reputation. And for a while, he was Trump's attorney. So I want to say the only legit one. And he publicly stated this last week, and it's all over the internet, that Trump will go to jail. He's just come out and said it. Trump will go to jail. It's all over. The video's all over the internet. This guy, this 21-year-old Jack, Teixeira, Teixeira, maybe that's how you pronounce it. He was the document. He is the document leaker. And he was trying to get bail, and he was ordered to be held without bail. So he's locked up. And this Jack, foolish kid, has been a member of the intelligence unit at the U.S. National Air Guard. He's not going anywhere. He's in jail. And then finally, we get to the, well, there's a few more things, but another attorney quit Donald Trump. Tim Parlatore. He was Trump's attorney in the Justice Department, special counsel investigation into the potential mishandling of classified documents in Florida. He quit. He told CNN that there were certain individuals, and that would be Boris Epstein, who is a Trump supporter, like he's over the top, that made defending the president much harder than it needed to be. Now, I did some research, and he doesn't say Boris's name. I'm telling you, it's Boris Epstein. And Tim was like, I'm out of here. And now Tim Parlatore might be cooperating. And here's the tidbits. Rudy's lawyer quit the civil case, the sexual case. Donald is denied a delay in the Georgia District Attorney case. Funny. A DC officer was indicted for tipping off the Proud Boy, Tario. And Alvin Bragg considers new charges against Weisselberg, the CEO of Trump Org, in order to get him to flip. So Weisselberg got out of Rikers, but he's so devoted to the Trump family that he's still in their view. So we'll see about that. And then there's just one rune that I picked extra, and here it is. Will Trump actually run? So I got the rune of initiation reversed, and I'll just quote you one sentence from the rune book. The old way has come to an end. The old way has come to an end. Okay, that's the first rune. Then I got the blank rune, which has no reverse, but it says blank is the end, blank is the beginning. So that would be the end of Trump and the beginning of a new era. Now, doesn't mean we're going to get rid of all the terrible MAGAs right away, but Trump being gone from running for president would be a new era. So it says contact with your true destiny is at hand. And I wrote jail, ? And then the last one, I got signals reversed. And it says, you may be concerned over what is failed communication. No kidding. A lack of clarity in past or present situations. And there is a sense of futility that may overwhelm him. It is the path of karma. And the book says, consider the uses of adversity. Well, there are no uses of adversity for Trump. It's going in one direction. So based on these runes, I'm going to say don't be surprised if Trump actually is unable to run. I'm just going to leave it there for the moment, but I thought you'd find this interesting. Now we're moving on to, I could do a whole show on this experience I had, but I'm just going to try to make it brief. I went into the 99-cent store, you know, I always have these grocery store stories, to get cleaning supplies because I'm detailing my apartment. And they were having a Mercury retrograde moment, which is one of the, it wasn't taking credit cards. And there were a lot of people in there. And there was this really long line just to go through one, one cash register. So I don't want to leave because I really need these cleaning supplies. And so I saw the register where they were having all this drama and all this trouble. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to stand next to this, near this register that is having trouble and kind of wait. I just had this feeling I was going to get lucky. So then a man showed up and stood next to me, and he had, again, same thing. He had like 2 items. And he had a business shirt on that said, indoor plant specialist, like he worked for a company or it was his company. And we started chatting for a minute. I just said, I don't know. I'm just standing here thinking that maybe this is going to open up. I said, so I don't want to, don't take my word for it. And so then we started chatting, and he was Hispanic, and he had perfect English, but he had a pretty thick accent. And he said, so what are you doing here in the middle of the day? Like, do you have to go back to work? And I said, no, I work for myself. And he said, well, what do you do? He was really curious, but I said this in a very pleasant, humorous way. I said, you really want to know? He goes, yeah, I'm curious. I said, well, okay, I do therapeutic hypnosis, which is therapy, and I'm an author. I write. And he goes, you are? You're an author? He goes, well, I service a lot of authors. They have homes. And I said, oh, I bet the ones you service, if they have you coming to their house to take care of their plants, they're successful. I bet you've worked in some very nice homes. And he said, oh yeah. Then he says to me, I'm not a writer, and it's in a very thick accent. I'm writing a story, but I'm stuck. And I said, you're stuck? And he said, yeah, I'm really stuck, but I'm not really a writer. And I remember telling him I'm an author, but I'm not rich and famous. And he goes, oh, but you will be. Okay, so that was interesting. It gets better. So I said, well, you know what? I could give you 3 writing tips just standing here, because that's what I do. I teach, and I teach writing. He goes, yeah, tell me. So I'm not going to tell you what I shared with him. It's on my, the notes on writing are on my Patreon. So I said, here's 3 things. And he was like blown away, and he loved it. And he goes, I want to buy your book. How can I get your book? And I said, well, I've got books in the trunk of my car. If we get out of here, I'll just give you a book. He goes, oh, no, I want to buy your book. I went, okay. And then he starts to, I don't know how to put it, but he kind of turned into, well, he asked me, what are your spiritual beliefs, your religion, blah, blah, blah. So I said, well, I really don't have like a religion. I was born into a Jewish family, but I'm very, very spiritual. But so then he starts talking about spirit and saying to me, you can do this. You just have to believe. You are going to be really successful. And I mean, it was like this guy was channeling. But the interesting thing about this experience is that I'm talking about the book called The Comic's Daughter. My dad was a comic. And if anybody who read the book knows that he did ethnic humor, which he would not be able to do today, but it was wildly successful when he was working. And he never alienated anybody from any ethnic group. I know that sounds impossible, but he never did. They loved him. Now, he did Hispanic humor, really funny stuff he did. They were all stories, jokes. And he did this perfect dialect. Well, this man, his name is Carlos, sounded just like my father. And I just couldn't believe it. I knew it was happening, and I didn't tell him. But I went, oh my God, my father just came down, and he's channeling through Carlos. So we finished up. We got taken into the next thing that opened up, and we got out of there, just like my left ear told me. So he comes to my car, I pull out the book, and he goes, now what do you charge for the book? And I said, well, I sell it online, and I charge $24, but since I'm handing it to you and I don't have to mail it, how about 20? And he goes, great. And he pulls a $20 bill and he gives me a $20 bill. And then he says, would you sign the book for me? And I went, sure. And I got a pen and I signed, to Carlos, thank you so much, with the date and my name. And I handed it to him and I said, thank you for asking. And he said, I'm going to hold up the book. He holds up the book and he says, I am keeping this because someday I'm going to tell everybody that I met you, I bought the book, and this is what you wrote me, because you are going to be really successful. You just have to believe it. This man wanted nothing from me. He didn't ask me for my phone number, any personal information. He was married with a daughter, and it was like this pure interaction. I was like high when I drove away. It was such a great experience. So, Carlos. Now, I'm going to quote. This quote is by Victor Hugo, born in 1802. He was a French romantic writer, considered one of the greatest writers of all time, and he was a politician. And this is very simple. Victor Hugo wrote, even the darkest night will end and the sun will rise. I think we need to hear that right now. Even the darkest night will end and the sun will rise. And then one more quote. This is kind of humorous, by Clarence Darrow. Also, from history. Clarence Seward Darrow was an American lawyer who became famous in the early 20th century for his involvement in the famous Leopold and Loeb murder trial. Very famous murder trial. And so this was his quote. I have never killed anyone, but I have read some obituary notices with great satisfaction. I kind of, feel that way about a few people in politics right now. I would read obituary notices with great satisfaction. I'm not going to name names, but I thought I can relate to this. Anyway, that is the show today, 32 minutes, and we'll see about this week. Don't get too invested. We've got a week and a half, and I am going to go back to what I said last week. There is a calm, there is a confidence in Joe Biden, and I don't think we're going to default. I remember one other thing I want to share with you. I was watching Morning Joe, and I happen to love Claire McCaskill, ex-Democratic senator in Missouri, was beaten by Josh Hawley, but she's exceptional, and she was an attorney too, a trial attorney. And they were talking about the debt limit. She said a bunch of things, and she said, okay, I'm going on record, no default, I'm calling it. So this was after I told you that I didn't think we're going to have a default. So I'm in good company with Claire McCaskill. There's no guarantees, but don't get too worked up this week. Just watch it with a little bit of detachment, if you can. Okay? I will be back with Patreon. I will be back with more. Okay? Kindness on the street. I'm reminded by Dolly Parton, who's got billboards everywhere about kindness. And good evidence, and make peace, make memories. Those are my things for Monday morning. Okay, you take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.